Good morning. Special thank you to the Masadrim for creating a warm atmosphere, literally, Kupshutai, and to Nachman Fried, to the Zeitlins, to Svi Goldring, and all the Masadrim, and my Rebbe Chaim Kramer, and be alright. So we're in Torah Zion. We've learned that the ultimate Rachaman is Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's why he's a leader. That's the main profile of a leader, that he's going to have Rachmanis, compassion. He'll care about every single person under his care. A shepherd cares for every single sheep, goat under his care, no exceptions. We've also learned that the Ikar Rachmanis is for Averas, because a Jew is so halek that Averas, Avonis in the Lashon of Nachman, Avonis have no relevance. There's no relationship between an Avera and the Jewish neshama. The Jewish neshama will repel it. It just can't. Haneshama shenatata bi taherahi, and we say that every single morning. So ultimately, an Avera against Hashem or against another person doesn't affect the actual neshama. So, being that the case, what's the greatest Rahmanas? The greatest Rahmanas would be for someone who's got Averas and to help them turn themselves around. That's the main Rahmanas. And that, Rav Nachman points out, the Yisurin, the pain, suffering of someone with Averas is way worse than any physical suffering we could ever imagine. So how does a person fall into Averas? How is that possible? So Rav Nachman quoted, Ein Adam over Avera, it's a Gemara in Soita, Daf Gimel, a person will not do an Avera, Ela im kein nichnas bei ruach shtus, unless he goes insane in that moment. A ruach shtus, a foolish thought has to go into his mind, and he entertains that thought, he doesn't reject it, and as long as he holds on to it, that's how insane he will, that's for how long he'll be insane. So the problem is not the Avera, the problem is the ruach shtus, that I allow that to happen to me. The foolish thinking. So comes along Rav Nachman and points out, therefore the greatest Rahmanas is to help someone have das, because das is what helps a person repel Averas. Averas are thoughts. An actual physical Avera, murder, stealing, only begins in the mind. So therefore, if we can take care of the mind, the real source, we can actually offer a possible solution to the problem. It always goes back to the same place. What's going on inside my mind? Hatred is a thought. Natira, resentment, is a thought. They are all taking place inside my mind. That is the power of the mind. So Rav Nachman then adds that one of the ways to get das is to be close to tzaddikim, but even speaking in Yirat Shamayim with other people also creates that das. And the main das that we have to have in this world is a das that will leave behind us inside the minds of others, specifically children and Talmidim. And then he points out, even if you don't have a child, Has V'Shalom, or don't have any Talmidim, every single conversation with another person is actually an opportunity to imbue das, this mindset that Hashem is everywhere all the time, and there's no such thing as Yush, that Emun and B'tachan are realities. That das is something that is an opportunity in every single conversation. So therefore, having a friend is extremely important, because one actually has the opportunity to bounce off them with Hashem's Yirat Shamayim, Yirat Chet. We talked about those two last week. I didn't go into any detail. I'll hope to touch on it a little bit today. But the main point he brings out is that there's no relationship that a person has that he can't grow from. In fact, if we really look carefully, if a person wants to grow on the accelerated pace, that means get into the fast lane, then the harder the relationship, the greater is the opportunity to squeeze out of oneself patience, listening, understanding, compassion, empathy. All the midas tovos are being squeezed out of us much more when we're with people who we don't agree with or don't agree with us. And because Hashem knows that none of us will grow unless we're forced to, so he invented marriage and children. Those are, I say it seriously, even though marriage and children is the fast lane. That is it forces us to be in a relationship where, by God's own words, Lo tov heyos adam levadoi. Now, if Hashem says something is lo tov, then that's got to be lo tov. And what's lo tov? Don't be alone. So therefore, what's the solution to not being alone? Esa connector. So Hashem says, I'm going to make for that person an assistant, connector, who's going to be against them. So Zachar, when we are mataher our machshavas, that's what Zachar really means. We are mataher ourselves. Then our spouse's Eza is a real help, and when we don't, then she becomes connector. So that is a deliberate system Hashem created in order for people to actually grow. So marriage is not a word; it's a sentence. But it's really meant to be, it's a life sentence, but it's meant to be for my growth, not for me to fight. It's for me to actually learn shtika. So we're going to see a few examples later, but what's really interesting, I think I may have shared this on a completely different Torah, that the language of Lo tov heyos adam levadoi. It should have written Lo tov liyos levadoi. It's not good for a person to be alone. What's heyos? What's the difference between heyos and liyos? So in English it doesn't really come out very clearly because it sounds basically the same. But in the grammar of the two, there's a huge difference. Liyos levadoi would refer to companionship. That's being alone because I've got nobody in my life. So that would be liyos, but it doesn't say that. It says heyos. Heyos means to be lonely where I don't have myself. Now how do I not have myself? Well, I'm not paying attention to what's coming out of my mouth. I'm not paying attention to my facial expressions. In fact, I never get to see my face. Ever. The most you'll ever see is a reflection. Maybe in a mirror, maybe in a photograph. You'll never get to see it. What's my face doing on the floor? You'll never get to see your face ever in your lifetime, which obviously points fingers to, well, who did Hashem create my face for? If I never get to see it. Oh, it's for everyone else. And your facial expressions, panim, is a revelation on the outside of what's going on inside. I'm not sure if I shared with you Malcolm Gladwell, his book Blink. Did I share that? I'm not sure. So there's fascinating studies that have been done that now with AI and also with technology can actually identify all 43 plus muscles in the face, and there's unlimited combinations you can make with your facial expressions. But it's possible to actually read a person's thoughts and feelings from their facial expressions, which actually means that your face is not invisible. Your face, your thoughts and your feelings are not invisible if a person could really read. So it's a fascinating study. There are about, I can't remember how many tens of thousands of facial expressions have been identified and categorized so that when looking at a face, reading the face, you can actually read what's going on inside their mind. When a person's not being completely, congruent, that what they're thinking and feeling is what's being shown on the outside. So Esav was a brilliant, he's the forefather of the liberal media, because he was able to be a completely different person on the inside than he was on the outside. Kilibai, what was going on inside his mind and his heart, his thoughts, that was completely different to his facial expressions. He was a manipulator. He was brilliant at fooling other people. He was the ultimate actor. And his brother, his twin, Yaakov Avinu, was a tam. And tam means shalem. Shalem means that all the different components of a person are congruent. They're working together. Face, tone of voice, choice of words, body language, facial expressions, all these are huge in the world of advertising, because 84%, this is what I was told when I used to work with Saatchi and Saatchi many years ago, 84% of the message being communicated in the world of advertising is in your body language, facial expression, tone of voice. The actual choice of words is responsible for approximately 16% of the sale. So it's a fascinating understanding, because what we're learning here, we're going to see in a few minutes, that your facial expression, smile, and what's behind the smile is huge in building a relationship. It's huge in maintaining a relationship, whether it's with one's spouse or one's children, etc. So Heyos Adam Levadoi actually means not to be alone where I don't have myself. So what's the what's the solution if I'm not aware of myself? I'm not aware of my subconscious reasons why I'm actually behaving the way I am. I'm not aware of the tone of voice. I don't realize how harsh I am with people who really matter the most in my life. And so how does Hashem help me discover me? How does he help me see me? I think that's the only word I know in English that really works really well on this is intimacy. Real intimacy is to into me see. How do I get to see into me? So Hashem says, here's the solution. I'm going to create an assistant, a wife, who will be against him. So that means it's a mirror for me to see me. And in the words of Rabbi Victor Miller, which I've shared before, marriage is like standing in front of a mirror with a magnifying glass in between. I think it's more like a microscope, where every single fault is not only recorded in real time, but it's held in long-term memory for a very long time. I'm talking about decades. And it's latoelis. It's an extremely powerful purpose for a spouse to know that their spouse is recording everything, and I can change me. So we'll see in a few minutes, but the main point we're going to bring out right now is a deep dive into Nekudas HaChaver, which Rav Nachman talks about many times, and the Nekudas of HaChaver, having a friend, which he's already pointed out in Torah Zion, paragraph 8, which we did last week, is the importance of someone speaking with a friend with Yirat Shemayim, to give chizuk to each other. So that really is the main Nekudas HaChaver. I'm going to share with you, we looked at last week's Sichas Run. We saw it inside where it's a two-way light when you're giving Yirat Shemayim, and if the person's not ready for any reason or is not listening, it's going to bounce back on you. So it's like a boomerang. Every word you say is a boomerang because you're listening to what you're saying. That's why it's so important to learn out loud, or even daven at least loud enough for myself to hear, because the word's boomerang. I once had a boomerang when I was a kid, and I forgot where I threw it. But then it came back to me. So, but every word is a boomerang. It's always coming back to us, whether to help or to haunt. So in Rabbatia, in his Perush on the Likutim Run, on this particular Torah, he quotes the following from Rav Nassan. I'm quoting from his footnotes, 36 through 41. They're very short. I'm just quote them quickly. So he says, look at Likuti Halachas, Hilchas Nadarim, Halacha Dalet, Ois Tesvav, Zel Lashoned. Hashem Yisparach, Yada et Gedulas Atzmei. Hashem obviously knows how great he is himself. Ki ein mi sheyodeh mimenu Yisparach, ki im hu levad Yisparach Yisaleh. Only Hashem knows who he really is. Hashem Yisparach be'oitzem rumumusa yodeh shadai kazehu ikar ta'anug av shashuav. Hashem's only and greatest pleasure is when a human being is created in this physical world and serves Hashem in this world, in marriage, with difficult kids, with difficult neighbors, not always an easy partner in business. It makes no difference. They are all the same mechanic. Hashem is squeezing us through different people, and when we're squeezed, what comes out? And the answer is whatever's inside. Oh, so the purpose of squeezing me is not to hurt me, it's to see what will come out. Will I respond with anger, frustration, with my list of your crimes against me, or will I listen with intent to understand and possibly be dan chavschus, or even love this person more for their being kind enough to tell me my faults, and in that maybe turn myself around, and if I turn myself around, then the person I'm in a relationship with actually changes in response to a different me. That's the only place where we change anybody. We never change anyone, we only change ourselves, and when we change ourselves, the whole world reconfigurates, especially those in our immediate sphere of influence. So we're put in this world, even if a person makes a mistake, and I make Hashem angry. You should know there are great tzaddikim, like this is on this Torah, like Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the ultimate Rachaman. That no matter how I've fallen, what my mistakes are, there are tzaddikim who know how to pull down shefa, blessing upon us, and rachamim and chesed, until we are elevated to the point where we're giving Hashem nachas too. So don't be afraid of different and difficult people. What Hashem really wants us to do is embrace them. So continues Rav Atiyah in his footnote here. What happens next is Az yikabel Yosef Yosef ta'anugim v'shashuyim ki kol ma she'ela ezo nachas ruach lefanav yisparach mimadrika nemucha Yosef yesh lo shashuyim Yosef Yosef u'b'shvil zeh bara es ha'olam. Hashem created the whole world davka, not for those who are necessarily only doing Hashem's will. That's nice, that's great, that's exactly what we do want. But the biggest revelation of Hashem's greatness is when someone is far away and still comes back to Hashem and struggles, starts again. That is a much bigger revelation. It's not a fair example to give, but if a non-Jew becomes a frum Jew, it's huge. Yisrael was huge, and Rav Nachman does talk about the main gedula, greatness of Hashem is manifest when non-Jews and Baalei Tshuva come to Hashem. But imagine if a huge Russia becomes a frum Jew. That is a bigger splash. The magnitude of that news is way more. So imagine, Queen Elizabeth II. Imagine that if before she passed away, she wanted to convert to Judaism. And the royal family couldn't keep it quiet, and it gets into the media. Can you imagine what a splash that would make? It would force people. I'm not saying she was a Russia. I'm saying that she was so famous, Queen of England, and known as the Queen. Everyone would know who you're talking about. So the splash of that would be huge. And if a real Russia, let's say an Arafat, Yimach Shemai, were to actually do teshuvah and come back and want to be Makabel Tariq mitzvahs, it would be, I don't know which basin would take him on, but it would be just the desire alone and the fact that it would hit the fan of the media, it would be huge. Why? Because people who are far away from Hashem would be forced to ask, oh my gosh, if this wicked person who's dedicated his life to destroy as many Jewish people as possible realized he made a huge mistake and now is coming to Hashem himself through Judaism, where does that place me? And it forces everyone to ask a question, what about me? Where am I? So the point is very, very true. The lowest the Jew is, the potential for revealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu is even greater, especially in a low down place where you can't see Hashem. In the next footnote, number 37, he quotes Likuti Halachas, Hilchos Shutfim B'Karka, partners in real estate. And it's in Halacha Hey, Ois Tesayim, V'zeh Lashonoi. Ikar HaMitzvah, the main mitzvah, Achiyuv L'daber Im Chaveroi, to speak with your friend, B'Yirat Shemayim, is in Yirat Shemayim. Shezeh Ikar HaDas. Yirat Shemayim is the main das, K'mushkat of Reishis Ochma Yiras Hashem. Hurak Lahachiv Dasoi. The only purpose in having a friendship where you're, even if we're talking Mili de Alma, but somehow we turn it around into what's the Hashgacha Pratis in this? What might be Hashem's lesson to us? So this is in order, Laharchiv Dasoi, to broaden a person's mind. We're going to talk about that when we get to Ois Vav in this Torah. Ki ha'ikar lohaisi ad asmoi v'eschaveroi b'bchinas moichin tekatnus. The main thing here is that I should be removed from a constricted mind where all I can see is what that person said or did to insult me, and I can't get beyond it. But if I have a friend who can help me get beyond it, then I'm going out from a moichin tekatnus, so to speak, a dependent mind. Dependent mind, katan means dependent, means immature. I'm dependent on thinking that when that person apologizes, then I'll be okay with them. Or when that person changes their mindset, then I'm going to be happy in this marriage. When that person changes and is more respectful to me, then I'll be happy in this relationship with this kid. Your chutzpah, 1 hour of your chutzpah is more than I had in a lifetime to my children, to my parents. And before you know it, no one can relate to any of this here, but some of you have friends who know what I'm talking about. When I blame my kids for me being an unhappy parent, it's Hashem is saying, look, Rietti, the only way I can get you to turn yourself around is to give you more practice, more opportunities. So guess what happens next? The kid turns up the volume in their chutzpah. It's not about their chutzpah, it's about waking me up. So Rav Arush has a great analogy. He says, imagine you've got a loudspeaker, and the loudspeaker is calling me names. Rietti, you're such a lowlife. You know, everyone knows deep down you're a nobody. And I just get really offended. I said, how dare you speak to me that way? And then the loudspeaker says, why, it's true. And I get so upset, I bang the loudspeaker, and I start kicking it and screaming at it and insulting. And everyone's saying, what's the matter with you? It's a loudspeaker, and it's wirelessly connected to a microphone. So really? And so I start taking it out on the microphone. No. It's the person who's speaking into the mic. And that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, everyone in my world is just a loudspeaker. And Hashem is speaking through them. And when I get stuck in beating up the mailman, I'm delivering this bill. It's not from me. It's from the O&R company, or OMG company in this case. It's not me. Now I get so stuck. But das is to know there is ein oid milvado. That's where we started with this whole Torah. On that pasuk, ha'ata hareta l'das. Moshe Rabbeinu has shown you that there is only ein oid milvado, only Hashem, and everything else is just Hashem surfacing in my life through people and circumstances. So that's the Nekudas. Then that takes away Yisurin. We've talked about that before. A person has an obligation to broaden their mind in every interface with every person. Even if you're not speaking Yiras Shamayim, you're speaking Yiras Oynesh. Yiras Shamayim is referring to, it's interesting, got different madrigas. It's got Yiras Oynesh, fear of consequences. That's what Oynesh really means. The word punishment is actually a translation from the Christian Bible, but Oynesh is made up of two words, ayin, the eye, and nash. Nash means fall away. So an Oynesh literally means to see how I've fallen. If I don't see how I've fallen, that's Oynesh. Then I feel I'm being punished. But really, Hashem has designed all justice to be so perfect that Oynesh is midah connected midah, and it's got inherent in it a message for me to see I have not yet improved myself to the degree that Hashem's expecting of me, and therefore I've got to see where I've fallen in this relationship or in myself, in this with this particular kid or with this partner in business. Well, it doesn't make a difference who. They're all different loudspeakers to get me to change. The only person I was created to change. So Yiras HaOynesh is on the, if you want to call it, the lowest level of fear of punishment, consequences. The next level up is Yiras Chet, which means I'm afraid of a mistake. Chet means a mistake. It doesn't mean a deliberate aveira. I'm afraid of a mistake. Why would I be afraid of a mistake? If a person's love for a friend or a spouse is so deep, or for a child, they become afraid to lose the relationship. Today, thanks to our liberal friends, we're afraid to even give any level of Torah to our children in case they're so fragile that they end up, don't you dare speak to me that way. 1-800 child abuse. I'm going to call right now. It's astonishing that a kid could speak to an adult that way, but that's only astonishing to me because I'm from a different generation. But today's generation, that would be completely acceptable and possibly even normal and not laughable. One should watch out for that. So Yiras Chet really means I'm afraid of breaking the relationship. That's why I don't want to make a mistake in this marriage, with this child. So the next one up is Yirat Shemayim, and one above that is Yiras HaRomimus. But Yirat Shemayim is very simple. I'm not allowed to say that. It's simple and it's complex. It's simple. Why? Because of all the expressions of Yiras Hashem, the one that gets the most labeled is Yirat Shemayim. And that deserves a little bit of attention, and I'm only going to mention it very briefly. Shemayim is something that is tangible. You can see Shemayim, and you don't have to go far unless the person has shown is in an underground tunnel for an extended period of time. The Shemayim is almost always accessible. Even from this tent, you can see Shemayim. Sham Mayim, over there is water. How to get there? Samayim, it lifted up. How did it lift up? Oh, Asian Mayim, the heat from the sun forces billions of gallons of water to rise through gravity, and now you've got Sham Mayim, over there's water. Those three meanings in the word Shemayim is a Gemara in Chagiga Daf Yud Beis. So you see in the word Sham Mayim is the question, how did the water get there? Oh, gravity. Oh, sunshine. the rainfall comes down and provides for us all the nutrition we need in the topsoil for food to grow, for man to survive. And Shemayim is a constant, tangible reminder that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one in charge of all that. So Yirat Shemayim is dafka a more tangible expression of recognizing there's a king over the universe, as opposed to Yirat Chet or Yiras Hashem. That is way too abstract. But Yirat Shemayim is, if you want to call it, the winner of all the different labels, because it's the easiest to relate to. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in second paragraph of Kriyat Shema, we say every single day, twice a day, Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Yud Gimel in Dvarim, where Hayayim Shema Tishmu, if I listen to Hashem's Torah and His mitzvahs, then I get rain in its season. Oh, so we're talking about Shemayim again. So all Parnasa and all Hatzlacha is based on recognizing that Hashem will hold back the rain. That's why Yarden is called Yaradan. It comes down from Shevet Dan. Dan is a two-letter root of Din. And the water comes down based on the judgment of our mitzvahs, Ma'asim Tovim, Torah, Chesed, Tefillah. All those factors determine the shefa that comes down to us. But it's coming down from Shamayim. So Yirat Shemayim means I've got a fear that if I don't do the right thing, it's going to have a midah effect in my world. So Yiras HaRomimus, that's already going into the arena of a person is so fearful of getting out of rapport with HaKadosh Baruch Hu because he is motivated by love. And that deep love is what's really in the Romimus, is much higher. That is what's motivating him. So even though Rav Nachman does talk about the importance of Yiras Oinesh, and if you want to look it up more, it's in Sichas Ran, paragraph Hey, paragraph number 5. He talks about the importance of recognizing that I can't just shoot for Yiras HaRomimus and Avas Hashem straight away. I got to start with Yiras Oinesh, because if I ignore it long enough, then I start not being afraid of making a mistake, because Hashem loves me so much I can do whatever I want. No, don't go there. So this is the piece that Rav Atia is bringing out. He is fulfilling the mitzvah, and we're talking about in Torah Zayin, paragraph Hey, which we looked at last week, is when two people are talking in Yirat Shemayim. It's the lowest, it's a lower madrega of das. And that's to know that there is din, there's judgment, there's justice, v'dayan, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's never asleep, he's never blind, he's never deaf, he hears and sees everything. And therefore, to talk to a friend, even about Yiras Oinesh, is still in this bechina of Yiras Shemayim. Ach, afal piken, hapetach v'hashar shel Yiras Shemayim, hu dafka derech Yiras Oinesh. And the real gate to enter into Yiras Shemayim, it starts with Yiras Oinesh. Shekol ha'pachadim, now he quotes from Torah Tezvav Ois Gimel, Kol ha'pachadim shel Adam, every fear that a person has, hem miyira nefula, they are parts of what's called yira nefula, fallen fears. Fallen fears are the fears I have for anything outside of Hashem. It's not Yirat Shemayim, it's not Yiras Hashem, it's not Yiras Oinesh. I'm fearful of what you're going to think of me. And then I give you power to actually think of me in the exact way I don't want you to think of me. So it's my Yiras Nefulos, it's fallen. They have no kiyum, they have no continuity. In fact, I'm actually feeding the item I fear. So I'm fearful of Goyim, I'm fearful of anti-Semitism. That gives power to anti-Semitism, because I'm not fearful of Hashem. I should be fearful of Hashem and say, Yerushalayim, you're only sending anti-Semitism to wake me up. So long perek in Parshat Kisavai, perek Chavches, spilling into Chavtes and Lamed. All anti-Semitism is part of Nevuah. It's going to happen, and it's conditional. That if I fall away from Hashem, that's when anti-Semitism gets its power. When Kol Yaakov is silent in Tefillah and learning, that's when Yedei Esav, that's when the physical strength of Haman and Haman Dami, and any other Rishaim, like Saddam Insane. I think that was his real name. We just thought it was a bit crazy, so he changed it to Hussein. All our enemies throughout history, they really were dummies, because if they just read history, they'll see that none of them succeeded in their plan to harm us and to annihilate us. So but they're all just sent by Hashem. And what feeds them? Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu imayin. Is Hashem with us or not? V'yavoy Amalek. Oh, so our enemies are fed by my doubts in Emunah. So that is the real problem. It's not the enemy I should be afraid of. So every type of pachad and yira comes from yiras nefulos. V'sarch la'alois is yira ledas. What I've got to do is switch that yira into das. Dahainu ledas et Hashem. Ule yira mimenu. I should have das that Hashem is in control and have fear for Hashem. Begin to ihu rav v'shalet. In order I recognize that He is the one in charge. He's in control. Shazu yiras ha'roimimus, and that is yiras ha'roimimus. Nimsa shetachlis ha'yira ba al yedei yedias Hashem. But the purpose of yira is actually to bring me to know Hashem. So don't be afraid if I've got yira for anyone or anything. It's just a reminder that when I'm paying attention in my thoughts that I'm afraid of this person, Hashem wants me to, once I recognize that I'm aware, now I've got a chance to either continue being afraid or turn it into a tefillah. Rabbi Shalom, help me. I don't want to be afraid of anyone, only you. Yes?
Understand the switches from fear to fear of the whatever it is.
Yes.
Then switch that to fear of Hashem. We described Yiras Ha'roimimus as a love for Hashem. So how does that then transform from that fear to love?
Excellent question. How do you transfer fear to love? So that is going to be the biggest training in our lives. The biggest training in our lives is to connect to reality. And what is reality? Chesed kel kol hayom. Hashem's kindness is all day long. David HaMelech was fixated, obsessed in a good way, completely fixated and obsessed about Hodu Lashem, and he's the best person in world history to say Hodu Lashem because he suffered the most, and he's still saying thank you. Why are you saying thank you? Ki tov, because Hashem is good. How do you come to that? After all you've been through, lost 4 children, Sefer told us Nevi'im claims he lost 8 children in his lifetime. He suffered so much in his lifetime, he was rejected by his family, but he still kept coming back to the same answer. Ki le'olam chasdoi, because his chesed is le'olam. Le'olam is a very important word to translate. It's infinite. It's forever. It's also he'elam, it's also hidden. But it's there all the time. So the only reason I could ever be depressed or fall into yish or get angry is because I'm not paying attention to Hashem's perfect chesed. So the more I count the blessings, which is Hashem's chesed, which is Hashem's ava, which is Hashem's toiv, ki lo olam chasdei, that is how we can switch. But I really do need. That's why all of Shacharis, most of Shacharis, except for Korban, most of Shacharis is Psukei de Zimra and praising Hashem for His constant kindness. So that is ultimately the das that Hashem wants me to have, and that when I fall into yira, I'm only one thought away, literally, to switch it to ava. And Hashem, you must be doing this for my good because you love me. I'm a chelik elokam mimal. I'm selem elokim. So I think that's the only best way for us to switch, in recognizing I'm thinking thoughts of fear, and Hashem wants me to think for thoughts of love. You love me, Adein Seif. When Mashiach comes, the Gilui Das will be so glaring that I will feel embarrassed that I ever misjudged my Creator. I'll be so, I don't want to say the words ashamed, but that's really what it's going to be. I'll be so ashamed, and then I'll have a change of mind. Nechama means change my mind. It means regret, but regret is I've changed my mind. I will have a complete change of mind because I will regret having misjudged my Creator. And that will be the ultimate comfort, that you were good to me all along and I didn't even chap it. And that's why I'll regret. I had so many opportunities, and the best opportunities was when someone was nasty to me, or unkind, or said unjust words. And that is the biggest invitation for V'limkalai Nafshi Tidon. We actually train every single day. Please Hashem, help me that when I'm cursed out, I should be silent. V'nafshi ke'afa la'kol tiyeh. And be like Afa, which is resilient. Not like a piece of shmata, but resilient like Afa, like the dirt of the ground. Does that help answer the question? So number 40. Tzarich le'amin shebechol echad miYisrael melubash kavod Hashem yisparach. I mean Rabbi Atiyah, ois number 40, the footnote number 40, and he's quoting word for word from the Likuti Halachas, Hilchas Netilat Yadayim Mesuda, and it's in Perek Vav, Halach Vav, ois nun ches. Paragraph 58. Sarach la'amin, says Rav Nosson, a person has to have emunah, shebechol echad miYisrael, that in every single Jew, melubash kvoda yisparach, Hashem's covered is clothed in that Jew. Ki mikol echad miYisrael, because from every single Jew, afilu hagurusha begruim, even the worst of the worst, kol zman shu bichlal ha'emunah kedosha, all the time that he's considered in Hashem's emunah, which is his name, he's still got a name Jew, Israel. Mikabel menu kvod parus prati. Hashem receives from that low Jew covered and his parus and splendor. Splendor is something that you, when you wear a gorgeous suit or uniform or a royal uniform, it's like it's splendid. It's because it's on the outside identifying who you are on the inside. You're Ben Melech. You're Bas Melech. So every single Jew is wearing the clothes that identifies who he really is. On the outside, it's a beard. I'm sorry, I apologize for my short beard. I remember I used to work for over 10 years in Borough Park. So there was one guy who I was working close with, who was my sponsor's like nephew, and he kept badgering me, if you grow a beard, the Hasidim are going to listen to you more. You got to grow a beard, and if you can even wear payas. So I called up my Rebbe, Chaim Kramer, and I asked him, what should I do? Because they're going on and on about this. And I've got, I was speaking a lot for Gateways and a lot of non-from Yidden. And I didn't go with my parents, didn't go with my wife first, then my parents. So Chaim told me, Chaim Kramer, he said to me, you've done pretty good till now, so don't worry about it. So this is about as long as it gets, I'm sorry. But the surah of a Yid with payas and a beard and bris milah, whoa, that's huge. That's the uniform on the outside. And that's before you get on into tzitzis and wearing tefillin as well, and talis gadol, and not wearing a shatnez. So all those are malbushim of the identity of a Jew. And Hashem gets extraordinary hitparus, splendor from it, extreme nachas. So, al kain bevadai tzarich lechabed et kol echad ve'echad. Therefore, I need to have covered for every single Jew, without exception. V'ikar covered hu lidabe im kol echad metachlis. What's that covered? The main covered, says Rav Nosson, is to talk about tachlis. Find a way, and you'll, when you meet like real Breslovers, you always find a way to turn the conversation into tachlis. I know many times I spoke with Nissim David, I would ask him a question, and he'll tell me some sort of Torah that I'm completely lost, but I realize he's probably doing something with my neshama to fix me, because it always goes into one of the Torahs in the Likutim run. You speak to Reb Chaim Kramer, somewhere in the conversation it's going to turn to Hashgacha Pratis. It always used to bother me. Every year I used to go to Meron for Rosh Hashanah, and Chaim, he put into me, you got to take Rabbeinu Zal seriously. So I wouldn't speak for the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And he was up most of the time, all night, speaking to Balei Tshuva or potential Balei Tshuva, and it bothered me. He would joke with them, talk about the Super Bowl. Was it the Super Bowl? Maybe I'll change it to Super Bowl. Yeah. So whatever they wanted to talk about, they would speak to him about it. So I didn't mean to be so honest. I beg your pardon. So comes along. I once asked him about it because it did bother me, because it's Rosh Hashanah and you're supposed to be Mimayat B'Tibur, come home and not to speak like Dvar B'Talim. So he pointed out, I don't remember where now, but he pointed out that when you're speaking to someone and you're at their level, because then they can't be toifes. We're going to get to it in paragraph Vav in this Torah. They're not being toifes the makifim, the levels of context that you could provide them if that's not what they're ready for. So you've got to speak to them at their level, and when you speak to them at their level, somehow or other you're going to inject a little bit of Yirat Shamayim or Hashgacha Pratis or a story from Rav Nachman, and that's how you gradually bring them in, and that's on Yom Hadin. So I understood that he saw the great need to actually, even on Rosh Hashanah, being up most of the night speaking with these kids, mostly teenagers, young teenagers, 17, 18, whatever. I guess that's not so young. And that also reminds me that I once asked him, I may have shared this with you, I once asked him about 20 years ago, Chaim Kramer started Breslov Research Institute, and he was putting out Sfarim and translations and many thousands of printings. And I asked him at which point would he measure that the BRI has been successful. So he told me an amazing answer. It was so simple, but it blew my mind. He said, if one Jew in his entire life has one hearer of Teshuvah, all the printing and all the Sfarim are worth the effort. So it took me a while to appreciate that in Hashem's reality, a hearer of Teshuvah is already such success, such a victory, because that one hearer of Teshuvah, which Be'ez Hashem will get to when we'll look at Tikkun Isaiah, which talks about if one Jew had a hearer of Teshuvah, then the tzaddikim or tzaddikei emes of his generation, after they died, that tzaddik dies, is able to pull that Jew out of Gehenna. It's in Tikkun Lamed Beis Lamed Gimel, I think. He can pull him out of Gehenna for the fact that he had one hearer of Teshuvah. Machshava is a thought, here is also a thought, but Machshava comes from Lashon Shav, which means sit. You're thinking, you're trying to figure this out. You're being mispointed. But hero comes from Lashon Har. Har is a mountain, like a hero is doubled over, so it's like a mountain range, which means to say you've got a fleeting thought, up, down, up, down, up, down. So just for one hero, a moment of should I do Teshuvah, that already is enough of a saving factor to create salvation for that neshama in Olam HaEmes, whether it be in Gehenna or Gan Eden. So one hero of Teshuvah matters, it changes everything. So Chaim said, it's going to cost a lot of money for that one hero, but that's my measure of success. So everything above that is pure bonus, and that's an amazing way to look at life. That, I did one mitzvah in my lifetime already, but I'm done. I'm going to continue, but don't count big, count small, because small is huge. So the main das to speak with your chaver is to speak Yirat Shamayim to your friend and to receive from him the same. And that is the beginning of Rav Nosson brings Haloimed Mikol Adam. Learn from everyone, that's real Chochmah. Everyone's got to be busy with this. It's a huge the real friendship is when we help our friend pick himself up. That's real friendship. That's raising their das. So of course, Gimul Chasadim, helping them with Parnasa, helping them with a chesed that they need for their family. But the ultimate is that we help their das, their mind, to be more attached to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in that realize that all Yisurim I'm going through are perfectly purposeful, and there's no mistakes in God's world. And that helps me to get into the das of Emunah and Petachan. You're only doing this because you love me. In the Nekudas HaChaver, I want to share with you, Rav Arush in his Siddur, he says on the words, when we ask every morning, please Hashem, shetatzileni hayom v'chol yom me'azifanim me'azus panim me'adam ra, save me from a bad person. And he in his notes he puts here, what's an adam ra? She'omer she'Hashem oisa ra. Someone who says Hashem does bad. Why do you do this to me? That is what I'm asking Hashem. Save me from a chaver, a friend who would tell me that there's any bad. Miyetzera, save me from the Yetzera. Sho'ema lish anira. When the Yetzera tells me that I'm bad, that is the worst, because now I'm really falling from my das. And he puts in even smaller print, Ra, the letters Reish Ayin, is Rashi Tevis Radifas Atzmai. I am bullying myself. I'm chasing myself. I'm beating myself up, and I stand there and I let my mind tell me these things without standing up against them. And if I'm going to be a bystander who actually agrees with the bully, I'm accomplice to the bully. At least be the bystander who answers, no, I'm not so bad. I woke up this morning. I said Moedani. I put on tefillin. I wore talis. I said, okay, it wasn't all the shachris, but I did most of shachris or half of shachris. I did say because of shachar. Why are you being right of me? So I've got to save myself from right of atzmai. So that's the definition of a bad friend, and I could be that to myself. In Pirkei Avos, Parak Beis Mishnah Gimel, we're on Nekudas HaChaver, about talking, building each other in Yirat Shemaim. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who everyone knows was like huge. He knew the lashon of dekalim, of palm trees. He could read what palm trees were communicating. He knew the language of birds, of animals. He even knew the language of clouds, their formation and movement. He knew the language of a flame of fire. He knew kolatar kula, everything nigla and nista. You know the famous story how he managed to escape out of Yerushalayim in a coffin pretending to be dead in order to arrive at the Roman camp and there negotiate with Vespasian Yavne to be the place of haven that he would, when he destroys Yerushalayim, but he would transfer the Hachamim to Yavne so that the Sanhedrin and the Hachamim would be saved. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, God Ladar, saved Klal Yisrael. He saved the Tosh Baal Peh, huge, towering tzaddik, and he actually said on his deathbed he was crying. And his Talmidim asked him, "What do you see that you're crying?" He said, "I see two paths in front of me. I see one to Gan Eden, one to Gehenna, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to be led on." And they said, well, you know, how hope is there for us? So you look at the Rif. Rav Nachman quotes this in Chaim Ran. Rav Nassim quotes in the Chaim Ran from Rav Nachman, but you see it in the Rif in Ein Yaakov on that Gemara in Brachas Daf Chav Ches, where he said, "I don't know where I'm going, Gan Eden or Gehenna." So the Rif said his question wasn't whether he's going to Gan Eden. Obviously, he was the Gadol Hador, and he was responsible for saving all the Hachamim and the Tosh Baal Peh. So what does it mean? He was afraid, was he on the level of a tzaddik emes that would have the reshus, the authority, that on the way to Gan Eden, stop at Gehenna and pull out any Jew who had shaykhs with him in his lifetime who was in Gehenna? So this is the who we're talking about when we speak about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Look at the Ein Yaakov there, the riff on Ein Yaakov. That's almost word for word. So he asked his 5-star Talmidim. He wanted to send them on an errand. What was the mission? Find a derech hayasha that will schlep in every midah tova. If you can, the actual language is Amar Lehem. He said to them, "Su'u uru, go out and look very carefully. Ezu derech yashara, what's a straight path? Shidbak ba ha'adam, that a person should attach himself to, tie himself to." Amar Rabbi Eliezer, the great Rabbi Eliezer, Omer ayin toiva. If you've got a good eye, that is what opens up the shefa in Shemayim. When you've got a good eye and you see the good in Hashem's world, in His hashgacha pratis, you see the good in other people, even if they've got bad stuff. I shouldn't say if. Even when we do have bad stuff, that's the Rabbeinu Yonah. We'll look at it hopefully in a few moments. Even if we see bad stuff and we still look, what's good about this, and turn it around, that is what brings shefa down to us. And with a good eye, a person will have a derech yashara in this world. It won't be a twisted path, it will be a straight path. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, chaver toiv. Have a good chaver. Almost all the Rishonim say it means have a good. So now you've got to look for a good chaver. The Meiri and Rabbeinu Yonah disagree with all the Rishonim and say it can't mean that. How's that a midah? That chaver, things could happen in his life. He can turn against me, could betray me. So I don't control that. It's got to be a midah that you are in control of. You control your eyes, so you control your mind's eye to look at the good in life. But I don't control a chaver toiv. So says the Meiri, Rabbeinu Yonah says the same. And the lashon there is, it doesn't mean look for a good chaver. Shehehu ba'atzmai toiv el kol shechenov. He should be good to his neighbors. That's a shachin toiv on the next one, and chaverav. So it doesn't mean find a good friend. It means be a good friend. And by me being a good friend, you're going to reciprocate, because that is how we are created. We're wired. K'mayim apanim lepanim, kein leiv ha'adam ladam. So when we put out good to others, it will come back. Some people need a bit more than in bigger doses of good before they reciprocate, but that's really the ikka of a chaver toiv. And the shachin toiv, the same idea. It can't mean you've got to look for a good neighborhood. Yeah, look for a good neighborhood, but I don't control my neighbors. I might move for. They might get a job in some other place where they have to move, and now someone else moves in, and oh my gosh, this is a terrible neighbor, and the whole neighborhood changes over time anyway. So it can't be talking about something outside of it. It's got to be a mitzvah toiv that I am responsible for, that will schlep in everything else. So it means be a shachin toiv. Haroyas Noilad, have the foresight to realize the consequences of actions I take, things I say, thoughts I have, attitudes. And Leiv Tov. Now Leiv Tov was Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said Leiv Tov wins, trumps all the others combined. He says that is kolel everything. Leiv Tov means a good mind. That's what it really means. Leiv Tov means a good mind, and that fits into what Rav Nachman's quoted many times. Im das kanisa ma chasarta. If you've got das, that's what Leiv means. The Ramban and Ibn Ezra both say Leiv hu hadas. 3 words. Leiv hu hadas. That's on Perek Vav Pasuk Hey in the Pasuk in Dvarim. V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol livavcha. Leiv hu hadas. Your mind is your thoughts. Ramban and Ibn Ezra, 2 Rishonim. Please be mindful of me that I don't quote the English translation that quotes it as heart based on the Christian Bible, and I hope I'm not offending anybody if I deviate from that Masorah and quote only Chazal and Rishonim. I would hate to be accused of deviating from the Masorah. Leiv Tov really means a good mind. That's what it really means. Included in Leiv Tov is everything that everyone else said. So that because a good mind is what's going to cause a good eye. A good mind is going to cause being a better friend. So in the words of Rabbi Arush, where's my quote from Rabbi Arush? 1 second, sorry. He has an Aleph-based book. I'll come to it when I find it. Sorry. So the goal of a Chava Tov is not companionship. That's bonus. Companionship is important, chevusa or mesusa, but it really is only bonus. The real purpose of a friend is a pick-me-up. We're here to pick each other up and elevate each other in Yirat Shamayim. And that when I feel safe to be honest with you about my grudges against so-and-so, or I feel I got grudges even Chas v'shalom against Hashem because I started becoming from late, or I'm only waking up now and there's so many of my friends are way ahead of me. Whatever it is, the purpose of my friend is not just to empathize. That's important at the beginning to validate, but as soon as you're on the same page, approximately, elevate him. Don't empathize to the point where I had no idea how damaged you are and how scarred you are. This is going to take years and years of repair. Don't go there, because that is pulling me down. It's not pulling me up. And that's what Hashem wants from us. You look at anything that talks about Nekudas HaChaver, it's never about empathizing to the point where we. Empathy doesn't mean that I'm supposed to go into the water and start drowning like you and say, oh my gosh, I see what you mean. It's terrible. Give him a rope and pull him out. What are you doing trying to empathize, drowning with him? That makes no sense. And I'm talking not about just physical water, I'm talking about their mindset. Why would I go there and say, oh my gosh, I could never go through what you go through. I would be divorced a long time ago. I would, if I were you, I would just move to another zip code. I'm not in this world to escape. I'm in this world to deal with whatever Hashem plants in my world, blossom from there. No running away. Because running away is part of the word nisayon, nes, is lanus means to run away, but that's one of the choices. But the real purpose of a nisayon is nisa, is to elevate. I'm supposed to elevate myself. Don't run away, because when I run away from my nisayon, Hashem just has sent it to me in another loudspeaker. Oh, I've never saw this loudspeaker before. I hope this one's a nice one, and it starts insulting me. No, oh, not another one. I beat that one up and go leave. There's no end to running away. So how do you maintain a Chava Tov? So number one of this is don't keep count. It's not a score. When I'm only reciprocating to, well, they gave 100 for my son's chasna, so I'm not going to give more than that. I'll give 100 also. And then, don't keep score. What if it's what it's worth to you? Give. Hashem is the one who's going to give parnasa anyway. So if I keep score, how many times they did chesed, how many times I did, then it's not about chesed. It's about keeping score. I want it to be an even score, because I don't want to get into natira. Natira means resentment, and that is a loy taseh in the Torah. Don't go into bearing a grudge, remember other people's faults. So that's number one, don't keep score. Number two is daven for a chaver tov, and daven to be a chaver tov. That's his basis. Please, Rebbeinu Shalom, please help me to be a good friend, and therefore attract someone who's going to be a good friend for me. And that's really Rebbeinu Zal. He talks about it in Torah Chaf Hey in Tnana, where he talks about his basis. And the last paragraph is not a very big Torah there. He talks about the importance of turning Torah into tefillah, especially Torahs of a tzaddik emes. All the Tanaim with tzaddik emes, all our great tzaddikim, their Torahs, turn it into a tefillah. Rebbeinu Shalom, I see that Nekudas is very big. It's about elevating each other in Yirat Shamayim. Help me find such a friend. Help me be such a friend. Number 4 of this is Sichas Saram, which we quoted last week, so I'm not going into it again. I just mentioned the title, which was to be happy for other people's success. The Rav Nosson talked about it, we looked at that in detail, and we quoted Rabbi Rosenfeld. And Koheles, Perek Tes, Perek Dalet, Pasuk Tes, tells us, Toivim Hashnaim Mina Echad. 2 is always better than 1. Asher Yesh Lehem Schar Toiv Ba'amalam. That when 2 people are working together, the compensation, or if you want to call it reward, is way more through the efforts of 2 people. So when 2 people are growing in Yirat Shamayim, it's huge. They can really elevate each other. What happened to? So in Rabbi Arush, I'll just say it here in his Sefer on the Aleph base. Ois Chaver. So on line 2, 3, 8, and 9, he says the following: Chaver Toiv zeh shemoitze b'cha toiv. What's the definition of a good friend? A friend who finds good in you. So obviously, if I'm going to be a good friend, my definition of a good friend is for me to see the good in you. I've got to see the good in you. You've got to see the good in me. That is a Chaver Shaf. That's really where Chavrusas, so to speak, are helping elevate each other. Rav Nachman talks in Torah Ches, in Tnana, about the inherent danger of giving Torah. That if Has Hashem comes from anger, or I arouse a sense that you're a shmata in you, what ends up happening is he gives a phenomenal example. It's like you've got soya, you've got the waste of an animal, of a human being, and it's got a crust on the outside, it's a little bit dry, and you give it a kick. You've just exposed the inside, and when you expose the inside, oh my god, this is awful. That is what tochacha is when it's not correct, when it's not in the right way. And the tochacha will cause the other person to feel disgusting, and I'm going to be on the receiving end of the reich ra. So a chaver tov, Rabbi Arush makes it so simple, is to find the good in others. Umoitzi mimcha es hatov. Chaver tov, another definition, zeh she'etzoisav misiyois lecha livchoi b'tov. A definition of a good friend is someone who gives you advice, strategies to help you find the good in yourself. Adam b'loy chaver kismol b'loy yamin. He quotes actually the Meiri. He says it's from the Meiri. Someone without a good friend is like a right hand having no left hand. We're always helping each other. Our hands are helping each other all the time. When you need something to pick up with both hands, you need both hands. There's so many things we do that we need both hands for, and that without one hand, I'm so limited. Try tying your hands. Try tying your laces with one hand. You want another hand to be holding onto your shoe. You need it for balance. You need it for helping each other. So it's a very good mashal. And the last one here, which I want to quote, is Ten l'ishtecha, give to your wife as a hargasha, the sense, the feeling, her best friend. Give her the feeling that you're her best friend. By putting her first, everyone knows this, that when we put our wives first, we get at least tenfold back. But sometimes I'm going to get so stuck in my resentment for things that have been said or done, or faulty parenting, or whatever I want to blame and accuse, and before you know it, what I'm really doing is I'm setting myself back, because not only is it going to be a benefit to oneself to look for the good, but it elevates that other person who's actually chosen by Hashem to be my partner. So Rabbi Arush is huge on this. I would venture to suggest, it's only my personal observation, that because he's so mechabed his wife, puts her first on everything, that he's so successful to be able to delegate so much to so many people. He has a huge moised, hundreds of kids in his Talmud Torah, and a couple hundred people in the Jungelite learning in Kollel, all Breslov. It's only possible that a person can have that level of partnership with one's wife because there's a partnership. And she comes first. That's number one. So I'm not going into detail, but Rav Nachman does talk about the importance that Hashem made Nashim Dasim Kalos, and Nashim Dasim Kalos means, and this is the real meaning of it, it means they are easily persuaded. That's what it means. It's very badly translated when they say light-headed, because it makes like they don't have a good das. It means they're easily persuaded. I think I shared with you the story of Bruria. So Gemara, I think it's in Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Ches. You have to look at Rashi there because the story is not in Chazal, but it's a horrific story. Bruria, she was a brilliant mind. She's the only lady in the entire Shas that is quoted because she was bucking Kimat all of Nigla at least, and she would give it to her husband Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir. He was being terrorized by a bunch of hooligans in the Shchuna, in the neighborhood he lived in. This is Mar Brachas Daf Yud, I believe. And he started davening that Hashem should knock them off, get rid of them. So Bruria overheard his this, and she said, "You're misinterpreting the pasuk. It doesn't say chaytim, that Hashem should remove the chaytim from the land. It says chatayim. It means they're aveiras. So what you should be davening for is that they should do teshuvah so that their chatayim will be removed from the world, and Rishayim einam, then they will no longer be Rishayim." And that's what happened. And they did teshuvah and came back, and all this chazal really from Bruria. So one time Reb Meir quoted Chazal that Nashim Dasim Kalas, and she took offense to it. She says it's not true. So Reb Meir was very shocked. This is I didn't make this up. This is Mipi Agvura and this is Masora. Nashim Dasim Kalas. They're easily persuaded, and she was very hurt by this. So he decided to play an experiment. Completely backfired, but he did an experiment. He hired a bacha to try and get her to agree to be seduced. Obviously, she was not supposed to the end, but the Gemara in Yud Ches in Avodah Zarah, in Rashi over there, tells us the story that she actually ended up agreeing. This was days and days and days of persuasion. She agreed, and when she realized that she had fallen to this, she was so remorseful and so broken. She committed suicide. She strangled herself. And Rabbi Meir was like completely beside himself because that was not the intent. That's why he went into a self-inflicted galus. That's near the end of his life. It's a tragic story, but the point we bring out, I think she was a Breslov chassid until then at least. But because Reb Nachman said himself, if he were to do the worst imaginable aveira, 1 second later he will be a tzaddik gomer again. Because he understood the power of thought. I'm only one thought away from changing my mind, no matter where I was a thought before. So, in Sharei Teshuvah, Rabbeinu Yonah asks in Shar Gimel a very simple question: why does the word reacha, which means your friend, why is the 2-letter root Ra? Why would Hashem choose the word reacha, which is throughout Tanakh you find the language of reacha after reacha kamecha? Well, that makes no sense. Why is it Ra? So answers Rabbeinu Yonah that if you're going to look for a friend who never does anything wrong and never disappoints you, never messes up, how long will you be looking for a friend? How long will you hold on to a friend? If you're looking for a spouse who will never make a mistake and never betray and never disappoint or never do anything wrong, how long will I stay married? How long will I be looking for a spouse? Forever. How long will I stay married? That's just not going to happen. So v'havta l'reacha kamecha, says Rabbeinu Yonah, is even with the ra that's in your friend, because adam ein tzadik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yechata. That's Shlomo Melech Koheles. There's no such thing as a human being that never makes a mistake. So let's get real. The mistake is not for me to judge you on. The mistake is for me to let go of my judgment on you. I'm supposed to be done l'chavschus. If I've got that choice, I've got to do my best. That's the way we maintain relationships. And he brings this on the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Perek Aleph Mishnah Vav, which says, "Aseh lecha rav u'knei lecha chaver v'havidan et kol adam lechavschus." So Rabbeinu Yonah says, what's the lechavschus got to do with "Aseh lecha rav u'knei lecha chaver"? So he said, because if I can't be done lechavschus when my friend or Rebbe or whoever it is that messes up and makes a mistake and says something very unkind or unjust, and I don't let go, move on, then there's no way you can have a Rebbe and stay with this chaver. It's just not going to happen. And therefore, havidanet kol adam lechavschus is part of that same Mishnah. In LM2, Rav Nosson, in Michtav Zion, he says, "Uknei lecha chaver" means make the quill your friend. What does it mean to have a quill as your friend? That if you don't have a physical friend, make your quill your friend. Type out your tefillahs and your hisbeidas and hizuk to people when you write to them, whether it's emails. It used to be people that actually took pride in penmanship, which Rav Nosson in that michtav actually says to his son. I don't want to say the language, but he was not very complimentary of his son's penmanship. So he said it's like a yeled cotton. I even used the word tinok. It's like so. It's not. I can hardly barely read your writing. One father told his son, you got to improve your penmanship, because if you just don't improve it, then you won't even be able to sign your unemployment check. So no one will be able to read it. So Rav Nosson was makpid that a person should take penmanship seriously, because it has a lot of milas in the Avodas Hashem. That's what he actually wrote. I think I wrote the actual Lashon. I didn't. So we touched on a little bit of what it means to be chaver tov. So I'm going to close on the following. Rambam tells us the danger of natira, of holding a grudge. We've got to let go of it. This flies in the faces of a lot of professionals today who would unpack what it is that I'm upset or angry or resentful about, or even bitter and broken and feel scarred, and then we analyze it for a long time. And comes along Rambam, and Rambam's very, very strong on this. I'll quickly quote him, please. We're over time already. The Rambam says, if I can find the Rambam, it's in Hilchas Deis, Perek Beis. It's in Hilchas Deis, Perek Zayin, Halach Ches. He says, I have to avoid lo tikon. Nekama is terrible. And one step before nekama, revenge, is bearing a grudge. Because if I don't let go of bearing a grudge, I'm going to come to nekama. I'm gonna want to get back at this person and even up the score. So he therefore says, of nekama, it's a midah ra ad ma'od. It's extremely bad. It leads to murder. It leads to everything terrible. So he says, when it comes to natira, a person should, with a full heart, completely be mochel the person and let go of the resentment. I'm going to read the language, very strong language. Erase from your mind what happened, what was said, and don't guard it. Yetiren, don't guard it. Don't resent him. All the time that you're holding on to that memory, and you remember it, Shema Yava Linkaim, then you're possibly going to come to Nekama, which is terrible. Lefikach, therefore, hikpida Torah ala natira. The Torah was very makpid not to fall into resentment. It's a thought, it's a memory of what you said or did. Till you completely erase the avoin, the deliberate, unkind thing that was done or said to you. Don't remember it at all. Now, if you've got a memory, you're going to remember it. But the yizkarenu, I think, has two meanings, and both are correct. Both translations are correct. Don't remember it, or don't mention it. At least don't mention it. Because that's what's going to lead to talking and talking. And when I get validated for the crime that was said or done to me, then it's not, I'm turning the people I'm talking to, my friends or a therapist, whoever it would be, I'm turning them into an arbitrator that when you agree that I've been avlet, this person really did something really nasty to me, that strengthens my natira against them. This answer, this strategy of letting go of natira, this mindset, is the correct mindset, attitude, that in order that should be a possibility, that the world will be able to continue. Masa umatnam, and all business transactions shel bnei adam zem zeh are only possible if you don't hold on to natira. Because if I hold on to resentment and bitter memories of what this person said and did, you're not going to be able to get along with people in the workplace, with my employees, with my co-workers, with my clients. So natira is a very important, it's an invitation for me to let go. And if I don't, I'm in trouble. He actually brings from David HaMelech, who was so careful about natira, that even his enemies, he was mochel. And in specifically reference to Shaul HaMelech, who tried to assassinate him, come upon him, and David HaMelech would not let his own men take revenge against Shaul HaMelech, who was trying to kill him. So we'll talk about it a little bit more next week, because Mesilas Yesharim actually talks about this even stronger and says you would think that from the mitzvah of not having natira and nekama, that we are being asked to be malachim, and he actually answers it's true. This midah of letting go is the midah for a malach, not for a human being who's made of the earth. So says them and the Mesilas Yesharim. So then, how do we explain that Hashem is holding me to that standard of letting go of what people have said and done? Answers the Mesilas Yesharim, Gezeras HaMelechi. This is a royal decree. Oh, the God said so? Okay, I have to work on it. It's a royal decree. You're right, it's really the madreg of a malach, but Hashem is holding us to this standard. We'll look at it a little bit more later next week. These are the main points to come out of how to maintain a friendship where I'm able to give each other Yiras Shamayim back and forth, as opposed to Chas v'Shalom not having anyone to talk to in Yiras Shamayim. Any questions, comments?
I think I saw somewhere once that going back to the Haftarah Yacha Kamoicha.
Yeah.
The Yacha is either the bad things that happen to
Yes,
you,
yeah.
or like your midas that have to be
Yes.
worked on. Your bad, obviously you have to correct them, but
Yes,
you should accept it and
that's right. That's Rav Nachman. I actually
oh,
quote it in my
maybe
notes.
it's the
Yeah,
Rav.
Kuf Einstein.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I think so. It said, Hafta l'recha kamoicha, because kamoicha, like I really am, I'm deserving of mitzvahs hadin, but Hashem is still a rachmin. So v'hafta l'recha, love the ra that comes to me, because kamoicha, like I really am, says Hashem, Ani Hashem, I'm a God of compassion. So really I deserve much worse. So I should be very grateful that whatever I've got is so that's exactly what you're saying.
The Rebbe should be Michael me for embellishing. Okay.
No, you said it right. You said it right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Shkaya.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I saw this week, this is again going back to the beginning of the Shiur, Reb Nasser writes about what you said about Yisrael,
Yes.
the biggest covered. He says that a person has to look at himself like that as well.
Wow.
And the biggest Kvod Shamayim comes out when a person is in a bad place and he's like a Yisrael, like he's far from
Wow.
Avodas Hashem, and he makes the slightest move to Avodas Hashem. That's like the biggest
Wow.
Gedula Sabayr Kvod Shamayim.
Wow.
Nasser brings this to me.
Where is that?
It's I think it's in the
Oh,
Chumash.
is it
You can
in
see
the
it. I forgot which halacha
Right.
it's from. It's incredible.
You're welcome. Thank you for your patience.